So Sam Bankman-Fried turned out to be a liar, a con artist, and a downright fraud. Allegedly, of course, please no sue. However, there was one positive that came out of this situation. Out of his meteoric rise and even quicker fall from grace, the one positive was that he further popularized the movement of effective altruism.
On a very basic level, effective altruists believe that you should use your own personal capital, your own personal money, to then donate to charities and causes that will benefit the world. They should avoid spending money on luxuries and instead donate towards effective causes.
Don't get me wrong, this has been going around in academic circles for 20 plus years now, as well as in Silicon Valley, but he really honed in on his marketing of this concept.
But for starters, who is Sam Bankman-Fried?
Now, for those of you that don't know Sam, he was on top of the world as of about a year and a half ago. His crypto empire at its peak was worth $18 billion. He was among the richest people in the world at the time. But it all came crashing down when we realized that Sam was not what he preached. All his good PR aside from effective altruism, he was a liar and a fraud. He first learned about effective altruism when he was a student at MIT, where he met Will MacAskill, one of the founders of the movement. MacAskill convinced him that he could make a huge difference by earning a lot of money and donating it to the most effective charities and causes. Once he learned about effective altruism, Bankman-Fried took this advice to heart. He became a successful crypto trader, founding Alameda Research initially, and became a greater force in the space when he founded FTX, what came to be the biggest exchange at the time. FTX was valued at $18 billion at its peak, and he pledged to give away 99+% of his fortune to effective charities. But here's where things get a little bit murky, right? Bankman-Fried's crypto business was not all it claimed to be. Not exactly ethical or transparent at all. He was accused of, and I think now he's been charged of, market manipulation, fraud, defrauding investors, money laundering, and a ton of other shady practices, and just straight up lies to customers. He also used his influence and wealth to lobby government for better regulation, which he at the time claimed he was doing for the greater good of society under the guise of effective altruism. But in retrospect, it's easy to see him as someone who was greedy. He truly was the definition of an opportunist who used the positive PR that resulted from his effective altruist status to then lose a lot of money for good hardworking people that invested with him. So what does this mean for effective altruism? Just shows that the movement has some serious flaws and limitations. For one thing, as we've talked about, it can be used as a cover for bad actors, when in actuality they're operating for their own benefit. Another thing about effective altruism as well, it can really create a moral dilemma for those who engage with it. They might be tempted to, at best, cut corners, or at worst, harm others and break serious laws that have reason in place in our society. They might also rationalize these actions through this moral philosophy. And I would argue that Sam probably did this as well.
The other problem with effective altruism is that it monopolizes power into the hands of billionaires and leaves them to determine which causes and which charities are worthwhile to donate to. This could also mean that these billionaires congregate their money something that best serves them. For example, billions of dollars over the years has been donated to universities and colleges that probably don't need it. High-end, privatized university. It widens the gap between those who attend Ivy League schools and those who attend, say, community college.
Obviously, that's not all to say that effective altruism is all bad or all useless. There are tons of effective altruists in the world trying to do more positive than they are trying to do harm. It is to say we should be careful not to follow blindly just because of someone's remarkable ambition, especially someone like Sam Bankman-Fried, who we should be really skeptical on when they have so much power behind their altruism, quote unquote. And the problems with effective altruism remind me of another philosophical ethics topic, mostly because effective altruism was derived from this ethics paper. The paper I'm talking about was written by a guy called Peter Singer. He's an Australian philosopher. Singer sparked plenty of controversy over the years, and not just through the paper that I'm going to bring up soon. In his 1979 book, Practical Ethics, he argued that parents should have the right to end the lives of newborns with severe disabilities. This has led to protests and disruptions at his lectures. Perhaps no nowhere is his belief in consequentialism so strong as in his paper, Famine, Affluence and Morality, which has been foundational to the effective altruism movement. And it starts with a really bold claim. Ordinary people are evil. When I first read this paper, I was perplexed because it really does challenge the belief that most people hold near and dear, which is that people are, in broad terms, moral and good and just. And not only does this paper challenge that belief, but it does so with poise. It's very hard to argue against. The broad claims are as follows. Suffering and death from lack of food, shelter, or medical care is bad. We can all agree on this. If it is within our power to prevent something bad from happening without thereby sacrificing anything of comparable moral importance, we ought to morally do it. Again, super agreeable. His third claim is that it makes no moral difference whether the person I can help is a neighbor's child 10 yards from me or a Bengali whose name I shall never know 10,000 miles away. And the fourth statement is the most controversial one. People do not feel in any way ashamed or guilty about spending money on new clothes or a new car instead of giving it to famine relief. Indeed, the alternative does not occur to them. This way of looking at the matter cannot be justified. When we buy new clothes not to keep ourselves warm, but to look quote-unquote well-dressed, we are not providing for any important need. Basically, Singer believes that we should use our resources to do the most good we possibly can, and that we have a moral obligation to help those who are suffering from extreme poverty, disease, or injustice. He claimed that spending money on luxuries instead of donating it to effective charities is the equivalent to letting someone die when we could easily save them. He also suggests that our lack of empathy and compassion for distant strangers reveals a flaw in our moral reasoning and character. It's a sound argument, especially at first glance. However, there are many limitations and objections to Singer's proposal. Some critics argue that his principle is too demanding and unrealistic, and that it ignores the importance of personal autonomy, happiness, and diversity, which frankly I would agree with. People have a right to enjoy their own lives and pursue their own interests, as long as they don't harm others. It's also very obvious that there are other ways to contribute to society besides donating money, such as volunteering, campaigning, or creating social value. Also, why does the pursuit of wealth have to dispar the pursuit of moral good? I believe that it's okay to have luxuries in life, but a person of good moral fiber should donate to effective charities as well. It also completely disregards the fact that wealth can create more wealth. Perhaps my fancy car is a great signal to other rich people that I have investment ideas that are worthwhile. Suppose I use my multi-million-dollar penthouse that I wish I had to host charity balls that raise money for great causes. Is it then morally justified? If so, how often do I need to hold these charity balls for the luxury expense to be justified? The problem with any black and white philosophy like this is it's hard to know where to draw the line. Is it okay to, say, spend some money on organic food produce that makes me happier and healthier? Could spending money on your kids' education or travel make sure that they are educated enough to create more wealth in the future and thereby creating more wealth for the world? Could buying a suit and the Rolex that I obviously have lead me to look the part and get the job I want? Therefore, I can make more donations to effective charities. We can unilaterally agree that looking past a drowning child because you don't want your clothes to get wet would be morally unjustifiable. But what if you can't swim? Should you have taken swimming lessons in case of such an emergency? Or should you have put the money for swimming lessons towards an effective charity? Slowly, the argument of absolutist ethics withers down to what is essentially the trolley problem. A stupid cyclical exercise in theoretical ethics that ignores the real-life situations, feelings, and thoughts that have a strong effect on our decision-making skills. So where does this leave you and your money? After all, this is a personal finance channel, not moral philosophy. There's no definitive answer to what a moral steward would do with their money. There's room for luxuries in life, just as there's room for donations. I think most people fall too far to the luxury side of the equation. You should try and act as if there is a right and wrong thing to do with your money, but recognize there's no absolutes in life. Look after you. Pursue your interests, hobbies, and career advancement. Then, Once you're done looking after you, you can look after your partner, your family, and then your community. Once you, your family, and your community are looked after, then look outwardly to charities that are good causes and use their capital efficiently to create a world that's better for everyone. After all, good people create good families create good communities, and good communities create a good world. Help yourself so then you can help others. Don't spend your life just craving luxury, but don't relegate your life to abject poverty as well. Like all things in life, function in the grey area. There's always a middle ground. Invest in things that make you happier, and a great way to do that is to donate some of your capital towards charities.